facing a criminal charge can really rock somebody's sense of peace and balance. And that's why it's so important to begin thinking about the people you are going to meet in the future, whether it's at the earliest stage of the journey or if it's much later in the journey. At some point, an individual is going to have to advocate for himself. That's why we really recommend that people build a strong timeline showing how they have worked through the process. That record will help the individual position himself for a higher level of liberty at the soonest possible time. That's my experience. I was in prison for 9,500 days, which seems like a long time. It's 26 years. But through that journey, I was always working to document. In the video that you're going to see now, you're going to see how I kind of help other people understand the importance of laying a solid foundation to help you advance arguments for higher levels of liberty at as soonest possible time in the weeks, months, years, and decades ahead. I'm Michael Santos, and we hope that you will subscribe to Prison Professors. Thank you. Second here. Will this work? I don't know if this works, but I'm hoping it's going to work. Your list of audio devices connected to the operator has changed. Do you want to open the other? Yeah, no. Okay. So I'm going to try to record this with hopes that I can send it to you in a private link, Joseph. Joseph, did you see the video link of our lesson plan?
With the video that I did with you?
Yes.
No, I requested it from you. I
sent
received
it to you, but you didn't understand it then, because it's a private link. I haven't made it public yet, but I sent it to you. I'm going to send it to you again today. If you don't understand how to open it, send me a text, because I sent it to you before and I sent it again to you second when you asked for it. But you did read the lesson plan, right?
Sure.
So at the top of the lesson plan, it had a URL, and you could click that URL. But I will do that with you again today, so that you can watch it and follow along on the lesson plan, because I won't distribute it until you approve it. Okay?
Thank you.
So I'll make sure that you look at it today. Right now, what I'd like to do is introduce you to Larry. Larry is a interesting guy, super smart. He graduated from Columbia Law School, and he was a lawyer. What kind of law did you practice, Larry?
Mostly law. Corporate and real estate. Yeah, securities, corporate real estate mostly.
And you practiced law for how many years?
Well, I practiced law for about a dozen years, about 10 of them on Wall Street. And then I went to be general counsel of a publicly traded real estate company.
And then you went to become an entrepreneur in Central America.
That's
right?
Correct. Yes.
And that led to you getting some free room and board.
Yes. Unfortunately, that came along with the package. A little bit of entrepreneurship, not enough documentation, not enough disclosure, some time off or time out, courtesy Uncle Sam.
And you served how much time in federal prison?
I had a 10-year sentence. I ended up serving 7.5 years, 6 years and 8 months of which were actually in federal prison. The rest was in home confinement and halfway house.
So, Joseph, I wanted you to meet Larry for a couple of reasons, because although he had a great experience in prison, if I ask him some questions, let's just see the response. And that's why I asked Larry to be on the program, because I think you're going to learn from this.
Great.
Larry, tell us about your journey in prison. If I am a probation officer or I am a case manager and have the discretion to let you go home, and I ask you, why should I let you go home when I've got 1,000 people in here and everybody wants the same thing? What's different about your adjustment?
Yeah, that's a very good question. When I first went away to prison, I had the fear of God put in. I wasn't sure how I was going to be able to provide for my family financially. I wasn't sure what life was going to be like on the other side. And for the first year or so that I spent in prison, I was in a county jail, actually, and I had no idea how long my sentence would be. Could have been 5 years. It could have been life. I was looking at potentially a life sentence. So I felt hyper-focused on documenting what was going on around me. And very interestingly enough, The Wolf of Wall Street had just recently come out and gotten big in terms of the movie, I believe, around then. And so I became hyper motivated on writing my own journey. And that's how it all started. I started writing down as many details as I could remember about the past. I wrote about what was going on around me, realizing in my mind or thinking in my mind that this could be very valuable going forward. And it served as a very important tool because it also helped keep me busy along the way. And a lot of the time, particularly before you get to a prison, it's confined a lot of the time in very small quarters. And you need ways to distract yourself in order to pass the time and have it be less painful that way. So it really served a dual purpose as I started going through the writing process.
But I'm
Now,
sitting across the table from you right now, Larry. Years have passed. You've been in prison. And I'm asking you, is that what you're going to do? Is you're going to tell me that? Or do you have something? What do you have to show me?
okay. Well, as a result of the journey, that's how my journey began. One, the journey continued, I looked for other ways to improve myself and prepare for what I was going to be like on the other side. Like I said, it's very fearful. You don't know what the future holds. I didn't know if my family was going to still be together because eventually I got a relatively long sentence. I didn't know how they were going to get to the other side, how they were going to take care of themselves day to day. So I began preparing myself in prison in order to succeed afterwards. So I wrote additional books. I read a lot of philosophy. I got involved with meditation, mindfulness, finding my spiritual side as well. And in addition, I tried to do various other things, which proved to be a little bit difficult. Like, for example, with the book I suggested I was trying to write, sort of like The Wolf of Wall Street, I tried to create a blog. And in doing so, I was asking for help from family on the outside. And it started off well, but it didn't end so well because periodically one person would be busy and I'd have to transfer to another person until the point I had to give up on trying to do that blog, preparing for the rest. So there were many times and many ways where I wish I had had additional resources available to help me get to the other side.
And so we get to the other side, and you're sitting across the table. Do you have, or did you have, a place to completely memorialized all the things that you did, where in one location you could send somebody and they could see a way that differentiates you from everybody else? Did
Yeah,
that
no,
exist?
I wish I had that. What I had was a messy amalgam of a whole bunch of different projects I had worked on that were all over the place. One was with my sister, half finished. The other one was with my son, three-quarters finished. The other one was with a good friend of mine. And at the end of the day, I spent the 9 to 10 months, the last part of my sentence when I was home confinement and halfway house, assembling all that, doing my best to put it together how I would like it. And it just didn't come out quite as well as if it had been done in an orderly fashion over the course of time.
So Joseph, that's exactly what I don't want to happen to you. I want you to document your story, not today, because Joseph's in that very precarious stage where he hasn't yet have a resolution. He's still working toward that resolution. So I don't know that we want to be public today, but you want to be thinking about, if I'm going inside, I want to make sure I'm documenting why I am different. And now I'm going to share with you an example of how that looks and what it means. And I'm going to open, and Larry hasn't seen this before either, but he's a member of our team, Joseph, just like I want you to be a member of our team when we've got enough leads to bring you on. Because just so you know, Larry, Joseph is a very talented sales professional on Wall Street, and self-made, really interesting story. We did a lesson plan with him that I'm going to be using to distribute into jails and prisons, and he'll have a big impact. But we'll use his story to help other people reach their highest potential. I want Joseph to be able to use his story to get him home sooner, the way that I did, right?
Mm-hmm.
I documented it all, and I'm going to show. But Joseph, you still can't see my screen. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so you'll be able to see it on video here when I load this after our call. But one of the places that I'm going to go, and Larry, you'll see it as well. I'm going to start sharing my screen right now. So share my entire screen right here. And now I'm going to go to, tell me, can you see my screen, Larry?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to go to Prison Professors. And in this section up here, when you look at this, Joseph or Larry, you could look up here at our services tab and click on the down arrow and come down to reputation. And you could read this article if you haven't done it before. And you could look and see just how much I did to document the journey all the way through, and how it started very early in writing books and then showing where they were published and showing the process, and, you know, even showing, so people could see it, a link that can take them someplace and they can see it online. They can see inside, and it's validated. So I can show all of this information. This is how I helped myself in an enormous way. And it's how I want you to help yourself in the months and years ahead. I want you to be thinking not about where you are today, but rather where you're going to be when you're sitting across the table from people that have the discretion to let you go home. You've got to be able to give them really solid credentials. And so, like, if you scroll down here, you will see, and Larry, you can still see, right?
Yes.
So you can click here, and I've got timelines, and because I was served so long, I can't present everything, but I could do it in 5-year increments of the time I went in to when getting an education, to building my career, to getting married, to doing all these things. All of it was documented, and I used all of this, and I still use all of this to overcome the collateral consequences of mass incarceration. So one of the things that I think is really important to do is to teach other people how to do that, and to teach them how to do that in a manner that doesn't depend on other people. So today, I'm going to send you kind of a background on how we're building a team. That part of our job is, number one, to spread awareness on why we need to change the criminal justice system. And number two, for individuals, how they can leverage all of this to help themselves. And the one that I'm sharing with you right now is an example of a very live product. And this is a guy who went to prison for 2 years, and we had that kind of same conversation where I told him, I want you to think about who you're going to meet a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and I want you to help show them what you've done. And so this is one of the areas where we keep the lesson plan, and if I open this, it'll go back to our site where the entire lesson plan shows up, okay? And he's showing how he's contributing to society. He's showing what he is doing with his time to differentiate himself from somebody else. Because everybody can say that they're about changing their life and what they're doing. But the easier you make it to let these bureaucrats see you and understand you and get that you're accepting responsibility, the stronger you're going to become. And so you can see this person's publishing every day, and I'll share this with you so that you can see it. One of the things.
Thank you.
Oh, you see it now?
No. When we're done, I would love if you could send me this video.
This on a video, so you'll be able to see this. Okay.
Great.
And you can see the dates and the time. This guy's public. He just surrendered to prison a couple of weeks ago, and you can see he's publishing every day. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we want you to do this work, and the way that you will do it is the same way that he does it. Okay. He writes. He goes to the prisons. email
Core
system.
link system.
Okay?
Are you talking about David Littman and Scott?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I've been following their blogs. Yes, I have them saved to my my home screen.
Right.
Excellent.
So this is how it happens. He sends me, and you'll see on my screen right now. In fact, if you look at the Prison Professor's website, I don't know if you've seen this before. I've shown it. I know I showed it to you, I think, before. But if you go to this services and consulting menu, and you scroll down here to the bottom, and you look for emails from prison. Let me see where that article is because I wrote about it. I know. Oh, core link system right here. And you click on this link right here, you can see exactly how it works. Okay? Where I've got a sample video there that shows it, but it shows how people send emails from prison and how we have to retrieve it because it's different from the email system out here. We have to log into the system, then you can click on the guy's name, and there's his email. And it comes like that. Then we'll copy it, we'll edit it, and we'll put it onto his website with a graphic, which is how the blog gets published. But the beauty of it is you're seeing this documented story so that in 1 year, you're going to see quite a bit of work. And that work is something that nobody can do but you. The challenge that I want you to overcome is what Larry just described that he experienced. Is that, geez, I'm in here, I did a lot of work, but I don't have it all in one place, so I can't show somebody. And you can't also expect these bureaucrats to do all of the work. We've got to show them. And so we create these tools and then it's almost like a repository. And if somebody clicks this section and gives us their name and their email, they're going to get a monthly newsletter. You haven't gotten one yet from David Littman because this is a new product that we just started, but you'll get a newsletter every month that says, oh, this is what David's been up to for the month. So what we're trying to do is the same thing that I did when I was inside, and that's to really document the entire story. The website becomes a tool, but it's a tool that only works if you work. So we can build this for you right now and get it ready, but I want you to understand this is a really long-term project. It's going to require us to build a framework, then to kind of teach you how to document your story. And it doesn't mean you have to all of a sudden become an academic, Joseph. All it means is we want to hear how you're growing and working and functioning in there in a manner that will help you build a story to advocate for yourself. And we can show you with these, we'll send you information inside, hey, we think you should write about this. Let me watch what I'm going to ask Larry right now, Joseph. Larry, how many books did you read while you were in prison?
Oh, scores of books. Probably over 100.
Over 100. I would submit that you made a lot more than 100 over 7 years, but you don't even know. Isn't that right?
Yeah, no. How many books I read? I don't have a clue.
Okay. Not only do you not even know, but you don't have a record of it. If I asked you, on the other hand, Joseph, I want you to just imagine this scenario. Okay? Let's say, God forbid, you get a 3-year sentence. You're going to serve 3 years in prison. I hope it's way less than that. And I don't know what's going to come. But let's say it's 3 years. That's 36 months. If I ask you this, Joseph, how many books have you read over the past year? What would you answer me? And it's okay if the answer is
About
0.
4.
Say 0.
I think 4.
Okay.
3 or 4.
One thing I can promise you, you're going to read a lot more when you're in prison.
No question about it.
You will definitely read books while you're in prison. And here's what we kind of want to articulate. We want to say, like, let's say that I'm in prison on January the 1st, 2022. and I say, okay, in 2022, I know there are 52 weeks. I know I am going to make a commitment of reading one book a week. Okay? That's 52 books. Okay? That's a lot of books. Larry just said he did 7 years and he only read 100. I know he read more than that, but he hasn't thought about it.
It's hard to recall and think about it over time, but
It is.
I also spent a lot of time writing.
You're darn right it's hard, but what I want you to do is think about this meeting you're going to have with a probation officer someday or a case manager someday who has discretion over your future. And I want you to have a documented story that you can't make up and you can't fake, okay? The reason you can't make it up or fake it is because you have to do the work. So every time you read a book, Joseph, I want you to do an exercise. I want you to say, okay, I know I read a book. I want to read why. Write me a report. And that report's going to say, why did I read this book, number one? Number two, it's going to say, what did I learn from reading this book? And number three, it's going to say, how will having read this book contribute to my success upon release? I want you to do that for every book you read. And now I want you to visualize what that will do for your website. Because if you write that in core links and you send it to our team, somebody from our team that Larry's going to work with is going to retrieve your core links message and publish it on your site. And so in 1 year, your site, when they say, how many books did you read while you were here? You're going to say, I read probably 75 books, because you're disciplined and you're deliberate. And these are the books. And now guess what I'm going to do with your book reports, Joseph? I'm going to be able to turn those into a workbook. A workbook that's got your name on it. Lessons I learned while I was in prison. Okay? And when you come back and you start working with our team, I want you to have that documented story. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens by thinking way in advance and investing in yourself. And this is a great tool. It's a tool that's helped me make millions of dollars. And it's just a tool. I can build you the website, and Larry's going to help you build the website. But if you don't do the work while you're in there, it's like here's an example I like to use. If I'm sitting here at this desk and somebody gives me a box with a soldering iron, some whatever solder is, transistors and resistors and capacitors and all these great technology tools, and I sit here with that box, in a year, you're still going to have a box of transistors and capacitors and radio, right? But if I put it in front of Mark Zuckerberg, you're going to have Facebook, okay? Or you're going to have something, because he took that tool and turned it into something. I need you to work with me on this website and turn this into a mitigation strategy that we can use to open opportunities of liberty for you, just like I opened for myself, to open income streams for you, just like I opened for myself. That's how I did it. I can only show you the tools that I created and that I used. I can only show you the tools that I wish Larry had, because Larry had used this 7 years ago, or at the start of his journey. He would have every day documented, every day. I'm not going to ask you to work, to do everything I did, Joseph, because I was obsessed with coming out, and I did document everything. But I want to say, this is the way that you've got to advocate for yourself. And it's the way everybody should work to advocate for himself. And I really believe that. And I never ask anybody to do anything I didn't do. Anybody can look on those websites and see I did it, and I still do it. If you look at our YouTube channel, you see I still do it. But it's because it's how I build a business. I want to build a business. Like I was talking with Larry earlier. And Larry, be honest, I'm not going to pry you on that. You asked me if I got a package. Just openly tell Joseph what I said. Did I get the package?
Yes. You
And
got the package.
honestly, did you? Then you said there might be some synergies there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what did I say?
You said that the program that you have created has a lot of legs and it's very successful, and that what I had sent regarding the project that might have synergies didn't feel like it was up to par per se with what you have going on with the foundation.
And I also told you, though, what my goal was. What did I say my goal was to you? What am I trying to build?
Well, you're trying to build a company where everyone working within the organization has a chance to be very successful financially.
And I gave you a number. And what was that number?
300. Every person working for the company should make at least $300,000.
$300,000 a year. And you know, Joseph, I believe everybody can do that. And I know you can do that, even with a felony background. But if you don't lay the seeds and have the groundwork, it's way harder. Way harder. And I don't want you to experience that. I want you to grow with us, but I want you to realize, hey, the best way of doing that is saying, there's a mountain ahead of me. I got to climb this mountain. I want to get ready to climb this mountain. And I want to help you climb that mountain. That's what this website's got to do for you. So, so do you have questions for me on it right now? Because I'm going to tell you the next steps. But before I get into that, I want to ask you, do you have any questions for me?
When a probation officer or someone that I'm sitting in front of looks at this and they see, everything that the work that I've done, blogging, how much of an influence does that have on them?
Well, I can tell you what my experience was, and then Larry, you can be a third party here and tell me if you think that's accurate. Okay. I got out of prison, and it was different for me than for you because the law has changed. When I got out of prison, there was no First Step Act. There was no mechanism in place that could result in me advancing my release date. Okay? But I got out of prison in August of 2013. So I served every day of my sentence. I served 9,500 days in prison, exactly. And when I got out of prison, I would say it was a week later, I had permission to travel anywhere in the United States. I had permission to be an entrepreneur and work for myself. I had permission to interact with other formerly incarcerated people. I was effectively free. Okay? Now, I can tell you the story about one of our other colleagues, not Larry, but Francis, who also has a law degree and was a CPA and has an MBA, really successful professional credentials, but he got in trouble, IRS issue, went to prison, and he only served 5 months. But his probation officer, and I offered him a job, and his probation officer will not allow him to take a job with me, even though he was going to get a W-2 salary. And we're going to work around it, but here's a guy who's 63 years old, who's been out of jail for 2 months. He sent out 70 plus resumes, not a single callback. And the reason, of course, is because one, he's in the market. I'm 57. It's just facts of life. The job market's not friendly to guys our age, my age. This guy's 63. Nobody wants to hire a 63-year-old that's a felon, and particularly one sometimes that has too much education, because they say you're overqualified. As soon as you find something better, you're going to leave my company. Well, in this situation, your background is a strength. Part of our motto in the business-to-business space that I told you about before, Joseph, is we did the time so you won't have to. We want to build that business, and we'd love for you to be a part of building that business. but you've got to be thinking about these people you're going to sit across the table from. So in my view, if Larry had documented his story earlier and he had an opportunity to get out at 3 years and First Step Act was in place, it wasn't in place when he had 3 years in, but he could have more effectively advocated for himself. That's the whole message, is when you ask how effective it is, it's a matter of saying, you know, I want to build a house. I know I want to build a house. How many tools do I want to have in my toolbox when I'm going to build this house?
Sure.
I want you to document your story, because I really believe that documenting my story opened opportunities for me to get out at the soonest possible time, to have the highest level of liberty when I got out, to be able to raise money and build businesses when I got out, to be able to create opportunities when I got out. And I believe I want to do that now for Larry and for Sam and for Justin and for everybody that's a part of our team. This is a team effort. But to build something great, I've got to tell the people very early, like you are very early, you've got time to really document a story. And if I would have had this conversation with Larry 10 years ago, this is exactly what I would have been telling him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's other opportunities as well. When it comes time to go to halfway house and home confinement, there's leeway in there as to what your case manager can give you. And you'll be in front of your case manager trying to distinguish yourself, why you should get the maximum amount permitted by your sentence and under the guidelines, et cetera, that they have within the BOP. And this is another way you can arm yourself that you should be getting the maximum of time allowed for that. And I can tell you that while I did get permission from my probation officer to work with Michael, they still, as a result of, had I documented my journey better, they put in some guardrails on. You can't do this, you can't do that. And they're making things, easier than they are for Francis, but still a little bit complicated. Now about 8 months in, 9 together, Michael. 9 months in with Michael, I have another opportunity to ask for, to get the guardrails off. And they do, they let them off slowly. But had I documented my journey better, had I had more information, it would make the decision for them a lot easier to give me carte blanche in working on a project like this where we're helping people.
And you'll see the same thing with Justin, right? Justin, when he went into the prison system, he was lost, like a lot of other people that are lost. We started, building this business and laying the groundwork when we were walking around the track together, because we knew he was going to get out way before me. And we wrote everything out. We wrote books. We wrote blogs. We created things. And so when he met with his probation officer, he had liberty that other people did not have. And, it's kind of like you're sowing seeds today for an orchard, a tree. Because this, sadly, when you get wrapped into the criminal justice system, there are a lot of collateral consequences. And part of our job is to overcome them. Part of our job is to teach other people how to overcome them. But this is about success, Joseph. And I listened to your success story in your lesson plan. And I know that you've built that in your life. But I think as we discussed, success is about visualizing the best possible outcome. Not necessarily the best outcome. It's the best possible. Given where we are, what's the best possible outcome? Then it's about documenting a strategy. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And put priorities in place. Like it was more important to get, the lesson plan and the narratives first, but because this is a later priority. This is a long-term strategy. The benefit from this will have ramifications for the rest of your life, but it really won't start having a big impact until you build it with content. And that's going to take certainly weeks, months, years. But if you don't have the skeleton platform, you can't do it.
Yeah, and on top of that, I heard that your background, and Michael introduced you as somebody who was involved with sales, but when you're involved in sales, you're really in the relationship business. And when you get out, this gives you something to be discussing besides, where you've been the last period of time. It gives you something to discuss, to latch into, to build upon in this relationship building process.
So we
Very
can
true.
help you when you're sending it into us, but we have to take next steps. And that's what we're going to talk about now, unless you have another question, then I want to respond to your question.
No, I am ready to get to work. I'm all in. The only last question is, because we're not going to do anything right away as far as posting anything, should I be documenting now so when the time comes,
Well,
I'll already...
what I'd like to do is I do think that we should be doing something now because it is early. We don't have to publicize it, but we should be doing, because it takes a lot of work on my end to build the technology. It takes time. And so I can't do that time until we've kind of architected it out. So I would like to work with you and Larry and saying, okay, Larry, we could look at Finding My Nineveh, because I think that's a very good example. But we can elaborate on it because you have time. We did Finding My Nineveh in like a couple of days before he surrendered. So we didn't have a lot of time to build it. With you, we've got time. And so the right thing to do, in my view, is for, first of all, me to have Larry go through Finding My Nineveh and then say, okay, these are areas that I need to write about for you, Joseph. And so the next step would be Larry's going to call you directly and he's going to write it out. He's going to ask you questions. I'm going to kind of show him how to do it, because this is a team effort. This is going to go. Larry's going to be involved with you, like I'm going to be involved with you, and like 4 other formerly incarcerated people are going to be involved. And everybody needs to know we're all on your team. So you have a team when you're in there. And because it takes a team to keep this thing rolling. Because while you're in there, we're all here working, but you deserve to have us looking at your site and making sure it's working well and things are getting posted and it's not dead. This is an investment in your future, and our team has a responsibility to build that future. So I want more people involved, and that's why I've asked Larry to get on the call today. And that way, because Larry's our project manager, and not only will he be directly involved, but he'll be directly involved with like a graphic designer that's going to put up images, and with just making sure that your project is not off the radar. And if we don't hear from you for a week or for 10 days, you're going to get a ping from somebody on our team. Hey, Joseph, get up. Let's get this thing going. Yeah. We need to get your shit up.
Of course. Okay. No, listen, I'm going to start creating content now. I got a huge head start.
Let Larry call you. Okay.
Sure.
And I'm gonna write. What I'm gonna do now is I'll mix this video. I'll publish it. I'll send you a link so that you can see it, because I want you to see the examples of what I was talking about. Although you're already familiar with the website, and then Larry will call you guys. Will schedule it together, and you'll design the initial content, because then it's going to take me time to get that initial content up. But we can make it private, so only you see it, Larry sees it, our team sees it, until you're ready for it to be live. Okay?
Great.
Okay. So I'm gonna close this video, and I'm gonna follow up to you within about 2 hours. It takes a little while to mix this. I'll follow up with you, but I'll also send you again the lesson plan with the URL, so you could be watching the lesson plan that we already built.
Thank you.
All right. Hey,
yeah, I'm excited.
Good. Joseph, I don't know if you have children. I know that Larry does, so I want to take the time to wish both of you guys a very happy Father's Day.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day to both of you. I'm not a father, but...
I'm not a father either.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go. I'm the father on the call. Okay, I'll accept it from both of you. Thank you very much.
I was a kid when I went in there, so I didn't get to have any kids.
Right.
But look, I'm really excited about this, Joseph. I'm glad that we're going to develop this together, and I think that you will find this to be a very worthwhile project for you.
Absolutely. I'm grateful. I'm excited. I'm ready to get to work.
You're going to get to work today. So you guys, I'll do this, and then you guys, when you see my email, Larry, you guys can connect together on when to interview him. Okay?
No problem. We'll set it up.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Bye-bye.